Welcome back to the Choose, Ask, Build Challenge. Once again, my name is Ryan Levesque, and I want to welcome you to day 3 of this week-long Choose, Ask, Build Challenge, which is all about how to choose your market, how to ask your market what they want so that you can build the business of your dreams and do so using the power of a quiz funnel, which we're going to be talking about in more detail as we get deeper in our time together. Now, before we dive right in, before we get started, I first want to hear from you. And today my question to you is as follows. I would love to know, for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, if this is your very first session in this challenge, I'd love to invite you inside the comment thread that's with this live video here inside the group. Type the number 1 if this is your first time here. If this is your second time here, I want to invite you to type in the number 2. And if this is your third time here, if you've been here for all 3 of our live sessions in this Choose, Ask, Build Challenge, type in the number 3. I want to hear from you. And I'd like to just give a shout out to some of y'all who are here live, participating, diving in. Suze, welcome to day 1. Corky, welcome to day 1. Scott, welcome to your first day. Harpreet, welcome back, my friend. Adrian, day 2. Laura, day 3. Joe, day 1. Zoo, day 1. Giorgio, day 2. James, back for day 2. James B, back for day 2. Quenisha, back for day 3. Eric, back for day 3. Charlotte, 33333. Lots of 3s. So you've been here the whole time. I love it. Liz Stanley, back here for day 3. Live for all 3 days. Alicia, back here for your second day together. Adrienne, all 3. I love it. Anna, back for day 3 as well. Arlene, back for day 2. Marvin, hey, what's going on? Good to see you, Marvin, from Georgia, day 3. Denise, day 1. And Denise Van Newton, day 2. Jacob Matthews, day 3. Gosh, we got a great crew here today. You guys are awesome. You guys are such a great crew. And I want to remind you that, remember, the more you participate in this launch, number 1, the more you're going to get out of it. This is not one of these sit back and relax and just kind of lay back and watch. This is one of these challenges where you got to actually get your hands dirty a little bit. You got to actually get yourself involved. So get yourself to the keyboard. Join right in. Let us know, 1, 2, 3, how many days have you been part of this? And once you've had a chance to do that, what I'd also love you to do is kick things off in a way that I like to kick off many of our sessions, which is beginning with some wins. Now that we're halfway through this challenge, can you believe it already? Halfway through this challenge, I want to hear from you. What are some of the wins that you've had in your life and in your business based on the great work that you've been doing here over the last couple of days? So do me a favor, just type the word win. You can put it in all caps and square brackets so I can see it nice and big. Type the word win and let me know what your biggest win has been since this challenge has started. It could be a moment of clarity. It could be an insight that you have. It could be propelling yourself, moving yourself forward. It could be something that you've discovered, perhaps about the market that you've been thinking about going into. Maybe discovered something about yourself as an entrepreneur. Maybe you discovered something about your why, your big reason why you're here in the first place. So do me a favor, I want to encourage you and invite you to share what's been one of your biggest wins since you've been part of this challenge here. And Tammy says, win, clarity. Jill says, win, I realize I only have 3 out of the 5 check boxes on my 5 market must-haves. Looking at this right here, win says, D, lots of clarity. Win, clarity on my market. Carrie says, win, refined my why. I love seeing these wins. Win, says John, started a quiz in 8 groups. Great. So Laura, win, clarity, more ideas than I imagined possible. John says, let's see. Saquinisha says, win. Oh, that one went by too fast. My market must-haves. Liz says, win, verifying my idea is a green light. Liz, win, realization that narrowing my niche that I was too perhaps broad, now getting more focused. James says, win. Gosh, these are going fast and furious. Discovered my great process, discovered making great progress writing my fiction book. Awesome. Win says, Kama, stop wasting time on building the thing before I know that there are buyers. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that today. The best place to get started. Win says, Charlotte discovered that I'm rare as MBCF. Kim says, win, that I'm learning about my strengths and moving in the direction that's a best fit for me. Let's see, we've got, these are going so fast. Win says, our awareness of being a mission-based entrepreneur and the business model which suits my unique profile. So I'm loving the wins. Keep posting your wins. I want to celebrate your wins with you because these small things that may seem like small steps right now are the things that lead to big results in the future. It all begins with these tiny little steps that we're taking here today. Remember, even the mighty oak once started as just a tiny little acorn. And these acorns that you're planting right here, right now, today, are what are going to set you up to build that mighty oak of a business that's going to stand the test of time, that's going to provide for you, provide for your family, give you the freedom, allow you to make the impact that you want to make, and leave the legacy that you want to leave in this world. Now, the process we're going here today is the process that, gosh, I've gone through dozens of times myself to build successful businesses in multiple niche markets. But more importantly, it's a process that literally thousands of entrepreneurs around the world have used to start their first business, to transform their side hustle into their full-time gig, to quit their day job so they could go all in their business, to take their business to the next level, take their income to the next level. I've shared some of these stories with you, and I'll share a few more with you here today. Like, for example, Kate, who used this process to generate her very first 6 sales, making over $2,982 in just a matter of days. Or Morgan, who generated 2 sales at $3,994 in less than a week. Or Alicia, who generated 29 sales, $14,000, launching a brand new product using this Choose, Ask, Build process. Or Ayelet, who had a first sale, 14% conversion rate on her very first webinar ever using this process. Or Amanda, who got 7 sales. Tabitha, 6 sales at $30,000. Sophie, who generated 3 sales at over $11,250 following this process. Morgan, who generated her first high-ticket sale of $17,500 following these exact steps that we're starting to cover here today in this Choose, Ask, Build challenge. Marilyn, who generated her first 8 sales. Adrienne, who generated her first sale ever. It's the same process that I've used to basically start completely from scratch. And I've shared this story with you, but what I haven't shared with you is how things began, kind of the early days, and very humble beginnings on how everything got started. If you're not familiar with my background, the way it got started was basically as follows. I grew up working class. My dad worked nights as a shipping clerk, loading boxes on the back of a truck. I didn't get a chance to see my dad a whole lot growing up because he spent most of his days working 7 days a week. My mom earned a little bit of extra money by cutting hair in the basement of our house, and I was fortunate enough to be the first in my family to go to college. And in college, I studied neuroscience at the Ivy League level at Brown University. And it was in college where I was able to meet the love of my life, my sweetheart. As you can see right here, this is me and my wife, Tylene, at our graduation ceremony many, many years ago. After college, we were completely broke. Neither of us came from any money, starting from scratch, student debt, you name it. And after college, we moved to New York City, tiny little studio apartment. And then from there, had an opportunity that took us to China, where I was able to basically travel the country, travel the continent, opening up sales offices for the company that I was working for. And then in 2008, when all was bright and rosy, the world financial crisis hit. And it was at that moment that the company that I was working for, I discovered, was going to go out of business, and I was about to lose my job. So I left that job and used that as this opportunity to start my first business, because I believe that in every crisis, it represents an opportunity. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. Everything is an opportunity for a new beginning. And when one door closes, a new door opens. And I took that as my opportunity to open the door. So I left my job and started my business. And at that time, my big goal, like my someday maybe goal, my dream, was to someday make $10,000 a month. And this was in 2008. And then a few years ago in 2018, I participated in that 10-year challenge. You can see there's a photo of me back in 2008, photo of me 2018. Embarrassingly enough, I still own the Puma sweatshirt that you see on the left-hand side. I still wear it to this day, much to my wife's chagrin. But 10 years later, we started with absolutely nothing, and we're able to build a $10 million a year business across multiple industries, multiple markets. And today, married, 2 kids, we got a dog, still scared out of my mind what's going to happen next, but the next 10 years, bring it on, baby. And you can see here, started just like how we all start, completely from scratch. Using this process, my first month in business made $370, and you can see the numbers, how things grew. $370 to $1,900 to $4,500 to $9,500 to $14,000 to $18,000, $23,000, $24,000. In fact, within 18 months, I'd taken a brand new business using this process that we're going through here today, starting completely from scratch, to making $24,000 a month. And then a year and a half later, within 3 years, I was making over $1 million a year. And I did it by entering 23 different weird niche markets. And I've shared some of those markets with you in the last few days. Scrabble tile jewelry, orchid care, memory training, violet care, flea removal, satellite TV, water filtration, fish oil supplements. But the thing that I'm most proud about, and when we talk about our reason why we do what we do and why we're here, is first and foremost, I consider myself, above all things, to be a father, a husband. This is our family right here. You can see our 2 boys, Henry and Bradley, smiling here in the blue bonnets. I'm really proud of the fact that we've been able to build an amazing company to provide employment for nearly 65 individuals around the world, in all corners of the globe, and build an amazing company. And because of the success that we've had in our business, we've been able to give back to causes that are really, really important to us. And I know for many of you who are mission driven, who have something bigger than yourself that you want to give back to, your business is a means for you to be able to do things. Like in our case here, we've been able to build a school in Kenya, what we call the Ask Academy, that provides an education to over 500 young girls and boys every single day who would otherwise not have access to an education. We're one of Kiva.org's largest corporate partners. We've funded over $100,000 in just the last few months of microloans to aspiring entrepreneurs in all corners of the globe. This really just scratches the surface of kind of what we've been able to do. And it's something that I'm really proud of, and I'm really proud of our community for becoming part of this as well. But far more important than my story, it's real people in all sorts of situations. You're probably going to find someone just like you who's had success using this process, like Cindy in the art market, or Neer in the back pain market, or Charlie in the guitar market, or Will in the tennis market, Kathy in the dog market, Janine in the cheerleading market, Jonathan in the blogging market, Dana in the parenting market. And the way that they've done it is by using this choose, ask, build process to build a quiz funnel to generate leads and customers, sales and income in their business. Quiz funnels in all sorts of different markets, like the retirement market, Charlie's Guitar Progress Killers quiz, in the weight loss market, in the professional development market, in the golf market, the public speaking market, all following this process. Choose, ask, build. Now, if we talk about what we're covering here today in this week-long 5-day Choose, Ask, Build challenge, the goal here is to help you choose your market, figure out what your market wants, so that you can build a business that provides for you and your family and that meets the market where they're at. And by doing that, we're able to answer the 5 most important questions that you need to know the answers to be successful in your business as an entrepreneur. Whether you're just getting started completely from scratch, whether you've got a successful business right now that you want to break through to that next level, whether you've maybe taken a step back, you've had some success, but maybe things have been a challenge for you and you're trying to right your ship and pivot and tweak and find that next phase for you in your life and in your business, or if you're in some place in between, you are in the right place. Now, we've got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time today, so I want to do a quick recap on everything that we've covered up until this point to bring us all up to speed, and then we're going to cover the next most important question that we're going to be answering here today, which is the question of where. Where are we going to find your ideal customer online? And you're going to see why this is so important. The reason why this today is so important is because once we've identified where your ideal customer is, that's going to help us uncover the natural conversations that are taking place online and the problems, challenges, and struggles that your ideal customer is having right now. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in business is the old adage, if you build it, they will come. The biggest mistake that people make is they have a great idea that they fall in love with and they say, all right, I'm going to try to sell this idea. The reality is you want to begin with the reverse, the inverse. You want to begin with a customer. You want to begin with what we call a hungry crowd, a group of people who are already looking for the solution that you might create. Instead of doing it in reverse and beginning with your solution, you want to begin with the problem. You want to begin with the opportunity that's there in your market, and that is how you set yourself up for guaranteed success. By simply asking, figuring out what your market wants, and giving it to them. But before we can get to that step, before we can get to the step of creating a quiz funnel that delivers that solution to your market, we first got to make sure that we can find your market online. Is there a place online where a like-minded group of people with a common conflict, remember we talked about market yesterday, a similar group of people with a common conflict, all congregated in one place so that we can see the natural pre-existing demand that already exists right now in the market? Because once you've identified that demand, business becomes as simple as just asking people what they want and giving it to them. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. And there's no better vehicle, there's no better mechanism, there's no better strategy to do that than to do that through a quiz funnel. So we're going to talk about all that and all the steps that get you to this point. But I want to kind of give you a preview of what's coming up over the next couple days and how everything that we're doing here is the runway, is the warm-up, is the steps that lead to creating your very own high-converting quiz funnel that gives you customers, clients, leads every single day. All right, so with that being said, we're going to be covering all that and more today. But before we do so, I want to remind you a couple important housekeeping items. Number one, there's homework every day. This is not a sit back and relax kind of challenge. I'm going to give you work. Yeah, I'm going to be making you work because I want you to be successful. So homework every single day. I already mentioned when we kick things off, there are going to be prizes and surprises. I already said yesterday that I'm going to be giving away a couple Amazon gift cards for those of you who participate. So the more you comment, the more you share, the more you post, the more you participate, the more chances you have to win one of these prizes, plus some unannounced special surprises I'll be sharing a little bit later on as well. For those of you wanting to make sure that you don't miss a single session, we've got an alert set up when you go to chooseaskbill.com/text. chooseaskbill.com/text will alert you every time that there's a live training happening. And by signing up for that list right there, when you go to, bear with me one second, the screen that you see on my screen, chooseaskbill.com/text, enter your email address, enter your phone number, and I will do a couple things. Number one, I'll text you my notes from every single day. So you can take your own notes, which I encourage you to do, but I'll send you an SMS message with my own personal notes as well. Number two, I've got some cool bonuses that you only get access to when you sign yourself up for this list, including my 101 Profitable Niches for 2021 bonus. This is a list of green light markets, the markets I would be going into right now myself if I was starting from scratch. Like if I had to start over again, this is the list that I would be starting from. So if you're struggling to pick a market, just pick one from that list and you can dive right in. So you've got all of that coming your way and more. All right, as far as finding stuff inside the group, just a quick recap before we dive into all the new stuff. I want to remind you that you can find everything that you need inside the group in two places. If we go to our screen right here, you're going to see at the very top, under the title of this group, you're going to see there's a section here called Guides. Guides is going to take you to all the stuff that you've missed. You see Guide 1, Choose, Ask, Build, Challenge. If you missed the welcome, important first steps, go ahead and start there, watch that. If you missed day 1, getting started, you and your business why, go there. And if you missed yesterday's session, day 2, who do you want to serve? You want to go there next. But that's where you catch up on everything. And of course, you'll get notified of everything that's coming up by going to the More link right here, clicking on the drop down that says Events, and make sure that you check off that you're going to all these events, and you'll be notified about everything that's happening next, when it's happening, and you won't miss a single minute. All right. So that's all the housekeeping. That's everything that I wanted to cover. Now let's take a moment to recap everything we've covered so far. And by the way, now's the time to take out something to take some notes and write down because we're going to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. So we began by answering the very first question. We go to the iPad here, which is your why, your reason why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's your big reason why? Is it to achieve freedom? Is it to make an impact? Is it to leave a legacy? What's your reason why? And if you haven't done so already, I'd love to encourage you to post inside the group your why, using the hashtag that you see right here, my why. Use the hashtag my why. Question number 1, what's your reason why? We start with why. Next, we talked about your type. What type of entrepreneur are you and what type of business is right for you based on your personality and your goals and your aspirations? So we call this your entrepreneur business type. And if you remember the 4 types of entrepreneurs, we covered these in detail, but just to recap real quick, we started with what? Upper left-hand corner. Who remembers what it is? It starts with the initials MBC. stands for mission-based. Mission-based entrepreneurs looking to right some wrong in the world, to move people away from something negative in their life, like Christy Kennedy, who wanted to eliminate bullying in her child's school. Next up, we have the second type of entrepreneur, which is the PB, passion-based entrepreneur, which in contrast to mission-based is all about moving people towards something positive, something that you love, something that enhances the world. It might be a hobby, it might be a sport, it might be an art that is your passion. Next up, we have the third type of entrepreneur. Remember, we call it OB, opportunity-based. This is the most classic definition of entrepreneur in the sense of the word. Opportunity-based entrepreneurs are the type of people that just see opportunities around you all the time, constantly asking yourself, how is it that nobody has solved this problem? It might not be a mission of yours, might not be a passion of yours, but you can't help but see these opportunities all around you. And last but not least, the fourth and final type of entrepreneur is the letter U, which stands for undecided. So if you're in a situation right now where you're saying, you know what, I know I want to start a business, I'm just not sure what that might be. Well, if you're undecided, my vote for you, my recommendation is just start with a practice business. That's what I did in my first niche business. I started with a practice business. Pick one of the niches from the list of 101 profitable niche markets. Just pick one so that you can learn this process. So you can learn the skill of building a business. It's like learning the skill of driving a car, right? The first car that you learned how to drive in probably wasn't your dream car. Out of curiosity, just as a quick aside, in the comments, what was your first car? I'll share mine here in just a second. That first car, what was it? Post it in the comments. You know, that first car that you learned how to drive was probably not your dream car. But in that vehicle, you learned a skill that for many people have for the rest of their lives. You learned a skill that, think about how valuable that skill has been for you in your life. Well, when I think back to my first car, the car that I learned how to drive in, certainly wasn't my dream car, but I learned a skill that's now served me, 25 years later, that continues to serve me. Well, starting with a practice business is the same thing. Practice business allows you to get some dents and some dings and not having to stress out about it, not putting so much pressure on yourself to get it perfect. Allowing that perfection paralysis to go away and just keep moving forward. So first car, I'm curious to know what some of our first cars were here inside the group. If you bear with me 1 second as I go back to our screen here. Take me just a second to get back to the screen that I was in a moment ago and see what's going on right here. I love it. Yellow Junker Chevy Cavalier, says Blake. First car, Toyota Corolla. Boy, I love that car. Doesn't it bring back memories when you think about your first car? Steve learned how to drive a Toyota Corolla, Ford Expedition 59, Ford Fairlane, Nissan Sentra, 62 Buick. Can't you just smell that first car, like the way it smelled, the way it looked, all the idiosyncrasies? See, this is what happens when you start with a practice business. It's a business that only its founder could love, just like that first car that you drove many years ago. For me, it was a 1980 standard Jeep with a rusted out floorboard in the mountains of New Hampshire that would get me through some tough times. I learned how to drive stick in the snow on the side of a mountain, which was a lot of fun. And I have fond memories of learning how to drive stick in the middle of a blizzard and having fun with that. So yes, if you're undecided, start with the practice business. All right, next up, we've got not just our 4 entrepreneur types, we've got our 4 business types, right? So who remembers what these are? We'll go to our grid here. We can fill this in together. So our 4 business types, remember, upper left-hand quadrant, we start with what? We start with our product focused. Product focus is we're selling like a physical product or a book or something that gets into the hands of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. You might not know any of your customers by name, but you're reaching a large number of people. Now, it's in contrast to a client-focused business, CF. Client-focused business is where you are working with a small number of clients in a deep way. You might be a coach, you might be a consultant, you might be a freelancer. You've got a small number of people that you're working with, but you're impacting those people in a very deep and profound way. Third type of business is what we call a membership-focused business. This is where you are creating an online membership or community that you're working with and supporting on an ongoing monthly, yearly basis. You might not know everybody by name, but you're continuing the relationship over time. It's less transactional than a product-focused business. Last but not least, in the final quadrant, who remembers this one? Starts with E, and ends with focused, it is the event focused business type. So event focus is where you are working with people in a concentrated period of time. It's a great way to get a ton of momentum, a ton done in a very short amount of time. This challenge is an example of an event. It doesn't have to be an in-person physical event. It can be a virtual event, a digital event, just like this one right here, but you're working with people in a concentrated experience, just like we're doing right now. So when you combine all this together, if we go back to our screen, you've got 4 letters that make up your entrepreneur business type. And so if you haven't done so already, what I'd love to encourage and invite you to do is to take time to post my type inside the group, hashtag my type, and let us know. If you are MBMF, let us know that you are MBMF here inside the group. If you are UCF, let us know that you are UCF here inside the group, or whatever your 4-letter type happens to be. So that's what we focused on day 2. Started with your why, then began with your type. Yesterday, we shifted our attention to your who. So that's the 3rd big question that we need to answer, which is, who is your market? And yesterday, we talked about the 5 market must-have. So who remembers market must-have number 1? Let's go through them in rapid fire style. Market must-have number 1 was, who remembers it? It was the evergreen market. So you want to be in a market that has the potential to be around for the next 100 years. You don't want to go into a market that is a fad market that's going to disappear tomorrow. You want to be in a market that's going to be successful for years and potentially decades to come. Next up, not enough to just be in an evergreen market. Need the 2nd market must-have, which begins with the letter E, ends with enthusiasm. The enthusiast market. The enthusiast market is a market that your consumer remains a buyer in that market for years and years and years to come. So for example, if they are in the, if you are serving dog owners are consumers in that market for years, if not decades to come. All right, next market must-have, evergreen enthusiast. We talked about this one right here. Who remembers what it is? It begins with U, has to do with the urgency of the problem you're solving. You need to have an urgent problem. And this is going to come into play quite a bit as we get into tomorrow's work, when we're looking for the urgent problem that you're solving inside your market. So you need to solve what's called a bleeding neck problem, a problem that people absolutely need to solve today. They can't wait. There's urgency to getting it solved. But it's not enough to just have one urgent problem that you help people with. You want to make sure that there are future additional problems down the road that you can help people with as well. So we need to have what are called future problems as well. So future problems, what that means is, for example, if you are in the dog market, you want to make sure that if you help people, for example, potty train their puppy, that you can help them with future problems, like, for example, learning how to take the dog for a walk, and teaching the dog how to come when they're called, and teaching the dog to behave with other dogs in public, and so on and so forth. So you want to be in a market where there are future problems as well. Okay, one thing real quick as I get this going. Okay, good. Good. All right. Last but not least, 5th and final market must-have is we need to make sure that we're selling to players with money. So we'll talk about this, because I noticed when I was looking at the homework and reviewing all the great work that you guys have done, that a few of us here are so mission-driven that we are attracted to markets that do not have an ability to pay for our services. It's very difficult, as I learned in my career, to sell to broke college kids. In my Rocket Memory business, that business attracted a large number of college students that didn't have the funds to invest in our training programs. And so I found out the hard way that it's really difficult to sell to broke college kids that don't have a whole lot of money in their bank account. I was one of those kids, so I should have known myself. Yes, that's exactly it. Okay, great. So we look at these 5 market must-haves, and then you want to make sure that your market checks off enough of the boxes. If you check off all 5 boxes, congratulations, you've got a green light market. If you check off 4 of the boxes, then you have a yellow light market. Proceed with caution, could be okay, but you might run into some obstacles, so be aware. And if you have 3 or fewer of these boxes checked, you've got a red light market, my friend, and now is the time to pivot, to shift, to make a change. Now, I want to encourage you to be ruthless with this. Do not look at your market through rose-colored glasses and say, yep, I've checked all the boxes. This is amazing. Be ruthless with yourself. Ask yourself, is it truly a market that checks off all 5 of these boxes? Once you've done that, take a moment here inside the group and use this hashtag that you see right here, MyWho. And you can say, my market is what? What's your market? My market is the Orchid Care market, and it checks off all 5 boxes. It's a green light market. Or my market is the memory improvement market. It checks off 4 of the boxes, and it is my market. It's my who. So take a moment to do that. All right. So once we've answered these questions, we've answered the question of why, we've answered the question of your type and you, we've answered the question of your who. Now we need to shift our attention to the next question, which is my where. My where. And specifically what we're going to be talking about here is where your market exists online. So we've identified a common group of people who share a common conflict. That's what we've defined as our market. But now we need to make sure that we can find these people online, that they're reachable. Because it's one thing to theoretically have a group of people that you want to serve, but it's a whole nother thing when the rubber meets the road and you ask yourself, all right, so where am I going to find these people, right? We got to find a way to reach these people online. And so that's what we're going to talk about here today. Because if you remember, by the way, before we get into that, I want to mention one thing real quick. Speaking of the homework that y'all have done, I just want to take a moment. I just want to hit the pause button, time out here for a second and say, you guys are, I am so impressed. Like, I am so impressed with those of you who are going all in, who are getting the homework done every single night, sticking with the assignments, putting the late night hours in. I know for some of you, you're watching this at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to be here live. Others are here, it's the middle of your day and you've had to make arrangements with kids and everything like that. I know you got a lot going on in your life. I just want to acknowledge you for all the great work that you're doing. In fact, I took a look inside the community here. We've got an amazing community that we're building here together. And I just wanted to give a shout out to a few of you, like Guillermo here, taking it just by the horns. And doing a great work with your homework right here. Derek, putting a couple markets out there to the test, looking at playwriting and your sort of SMB creative markets. Kathy, love what you're doing right here. Mission-driven, heart-centered women entrepreneurs who struggle with starting and growing or pivoting their business. Does it check off the boxes? Taking that critical eye and doing it right here. Carly doing the same thing, looking at the market. Homeschool moms, I think that's a great market, by the way. As a parent who homeschooled our kids through the pandemic, I can tell you that there are a whole host of urgent problems and future problems to solve in that market for sure. Marvin, love what you're doing right here. Organic farming, putting your market through the test. And so many of you were incredibly creative with the way in which you shared this information. I love this, Stacy, creating this nice, cool little infographic and sharing a little bit about your background and really just kind of putting yourself out there about the health and mental health challenges that you struggled with in your life and your reason why you're doing what you're doing. Robert here created, you can't see this here, but this is an animated video if you want to check out Robert's work right here. Jane went through the process of creating a mind map, which I thought was really, really cool. I love this one, Cass. It almost feels like I'm in one of the red rooms, a photography room, getting some film developed right here. I love this work. And so many of you went old school, just went old school pen and paper, which I love. Laura here, great handwriting, by the way. That was a lot of fun. Absolute authority on big dreams. Judy here, busting out the different colors in the coaching Kingdom Entrepreneur Leaders. Go, go, go for that green light. Stanley here going old school, introverted professionals. Rachel here, I love the work, drawing the river to kind of keep that analogy in your mind. I absolutely love that. Joey here, looking at helping natural fertility, women and parents looking to get help with natural fertility. And Becky here with this great drawing, just drawing it all out. Just picking one from the 101 niche list. 75, stress relief, go to town. Like that's it, like you're ready to rock. And just so many of you, not only posting, but just this community here helping each other out. So Paul, love the fact that you shared your market question here. There's kind of where you're thinking about your market might have some challenges. And then Wendy just jumping in and sharing your thoughts and feedback. Same thing, Levi here offering your market, Learn Excel, which I think is a great market. And I think Jaqueen here, offers some great insight that it's a big market and maybe one that you want to think about niching down in. And by the way, we're going to talk about how to identify the opportunities, problems, niches, and subsegments of your market to focus on when we get into our work tomorrow. So this is really going to help you nail down and narrow down this big market that you've identified for yourself, and then homing in, so to speak, on just one specific problem that you're going to focus on solving in that market. And this gentleman here who mentioned where he was stuck, looking to help people get out of poverty. And this is a perfect example of the challenges I see so many mission-driven entrepreneurs who have such big hearts and want to change the world and want to make an impact and want to leave a legacy and find themselves in a tough situation because the market they want to serve doesn't have the means to pay for their products or services. And so much great feedback coming through from the community here. And I just added, in this case here, it's really difficult to sell to a market that can't put a roof over their heads, that can't put food on the table. They just don't have the financial means to be able to pay for your services. And the thing is, you can't help other people if you're broke. You can't put on the person's oxygen mask next to you if you're gasping for air. You need to take care of yourself first. You need to provide for yourself, for your family, for your needs, so that you're in a position that you can help as many people as possible. It truly is possible to do well financially so you can do good in the world. In fact, that's a big part of my personal mission, is to do well financially so that I can give back, so I can make this world a better place, so I can leave a footprint, so I can try to impact as many people as possible and do the things that are really important to us. But once you've found that market, green means go. No more looking back. It's time to move forward. And today, that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to answer the question that you saw me share on the screen just a moment ago, which is the question of where. We talked about that river that's going to propel you forward to where you want to get, your destination that's going to take you to where you want to go, your hopes, your dreams, your reason why you're doing what you're doing. The last thing that you want is a yellow light market that's like paddling upstream, or worse yet, a red light market where you don't make any progress at all. Instead, what you want is that green light market that's going to get you to exactly where you want to go. But before we can move forward, we need to make sure that we can find this market online. Where are these people hanging out? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here today. In fact, we're going to talk about the 5 places to find your market online. And it's going to begin with an exercise that we're going to go through together today. That is our work. And you're going to have a homework assignment where you're going to identify where your market is online, and it's going to set you up for tomorrow's work, where we're going to be going into these places and figuring out where's the opportunity right now. What are the things that people need help with? How do we take this big, hairy, audacious goal, this big, vague idea for your business, for your market, for what it is that you want to create, and just narrow it down to a very specific problem that we're going to help people solve, that people are willing to spend money for a solution to that problem. And that's where it all becomes real. So, all right, let's dive into what we're talking about here today. So now is the time to take out a piece of paper and a pen, or something that you want to take notes with, and you can do what I have on my screen right here, because we're going to follow this together. 5 places where your market is online. This is what we call my where. Where is your market hiding out right now? So this is what we need to focus on. We need to make sure that we can actually reach that river that we talked about. We need to find where your market is online. So we're going to begin by going through the 5 places where your ideal customer is online. And we're going to go through some examples. I'm going to take you through an example in one of my own businesses. And then we're going to go through some live examples here inside the group. So it's one of the many benefits of being here live, is you have an opportunity to get some extra coaching, extra help, extra guidance in your own business. All right, so first place where your market is hiding right here in plain sight online is going to be no surprise to you, because it's where we are right here, right now, and that is right here on Facebook. Now, on Facebook, there is a section of the platform that you can use to find what are called groups, like this group right here. Groups of people who have a common interest, a common conflict that they are all facing. So when we talk about the topic of Facebook groups, the group that we're in right now is a perfect example of that. Look, there are 27,000 and counting of us here inside this group, all with a common conflict that we're looking to solve and sort out together. And we're demographically different, we're geographically different, but we all have this common conflict right here inside of Facebook. Now, how do you find this group of people for yourself and your business? Well, let's take a look at an example. And I thought it'd be fun to pull up one of my own businesses, a business that you've heard me talk a little bit about. And it's a business that I started years ago that is still successful here today. And that business is selling and helping people with the topic of orchids, as you can see right here. So here is a Phalaenopsis orchid. You can see it has, it's still blooming. It has one gorgeous spike that you can see right here. It's called a Phalaenopsis orchid, and we're going to take a look at orchids here. I think I got another one here. I don't want to totally crowd my desk, but I've got another. This is actually another phal as well. So just a few of our smaller orchids. I figured I'd bring them as props to have some fun with this. Where am I going to put this? Maybe I'll put this right here. Put it here. It's like I'm in a rainforest right now. All right, beautiful. So to inspire us, I always like to have something like this in front of us for the market that we're looking at. So let's take a look at the orchid market and begin to figure out where people actually exist. So let's do this together. If you bear with me one second, I'm going to go to facebook.com and let's take a look at this in action. So if we go to our screen right here, I'm in Facebook right now. And what I want to do is show you the steps for finding groups of people. Now, what we're looking for is we're specifically looking for, are there concentrated groups of people in the market that we're thinking of serving that are actively having conversations right here, right now? We're looking for evidence that people in this market are faced with questions, faced with problems, faced with challenges, faced with conflict right now, potentially conflict, challenges, problems, and struggles that we can solve as entrepreneurs. So to do that, we first need to make sure that these groups actually exist. Do these people exist in real life, or have we just made them up in our mind? And if you can't think of how to reach your market, if you can't use your imagination and creativity to think, how might I find this group of people? Well, it means that chances are the market that you've thought about reaching, your who, is one that you need to tweak and one that you need to pivot from. So let's take a look. So first thing you want to do is you go to Facebook, and in the upper right-hand corner, you can go to a bar right here, and I can type in, for example, a search term like orchids. All right, so we'll take in orchids. Type that search term in. And then on the left-hand side, you're going to see here that there are all sorts of different filters. And specifically what you're going to be looking for is to type in and click on where it says groups. We're specifically looking for groups of people. So what we want to look for is evidence of communities of people that are congregating around this common topic or this common situation. So in this case here, I'm talking about the subject of orchids, and let's take a look. So I've got this group right here, Orchids, Tips, and Tricks. 100 posts a day. You think that's active? Well, yeah, it's pretty active. How about this one right here? The American Orchid Society. 190 posts a day. That's pretty cool. Big Leaf Orchid Sales USA, a little bit less active, 3 posts a day. Orchid Lovers, 20 posts a day. Beginner Orchid Lovers, 80 posts a day. So I just typed in orchids, and I'm getting just a ton of groups that exist here in Facebook. That's telling me that we are on to something, ladies and gentlemen. I'm feeling really good about this market. So first place that you want to look for evidence of groups is on Facebook. Next place that you want to go to is shifting your attention from Facebook and then moving to Google. Now when you go to Google to look for groups of people, we're going to do things a little bit differently. When we go to Google, you can go to google.com. What we're going to do is you're going to want to type in your keyword or variations on your keyword plus the word orchid forum, plus the word forum. So when we go to Google, I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. We go to google.com, type in orchid forum, and let's take a look to see if there are forums that exist. So I see one right here that's called Orchid Board. Let's take a look at that, see what level of activity exists there. Orchids Forum. About this one right here, House, You just click on them, add them to a new tab. Orchid Talk, garden.org, Slipper Talk. It's probably for slipper or Paphiopedilum orchids. Let's take a look. All right, so Orchid Board. Love this site. It's a great site. Looks like it was built in 1998. But, let's take a look if it's active. So I'm looking at this right here and take a look. So latest post, 5/27. That was not too long ago. June 3rd, not too long ago. Today at 2 o'clock. Today at 9 o'clock. A few days ago, yesterday, a few days ago, today, yesterday. So what this tells me is that this group is relatively active. And what about the size of the group? If you scroll down, you might be able to see in some cases how big the group is. We can take a look and see in this case right here. Looks like there are 648 people who are actively online right now. That's a pretty big number. And when we look at the total number of members, look at that. 43,000 members. So that's a pretty good size group. Let's take a look at this one right here. Orchids Forum, same thing. I'm looking for activity. Latest activity. Looks like Friday, back in August. So this group not quite as active. I'm not as excited about this one. I might kind of minimize this and kind of ignore it. What about this one right here? 2 hours ago on this, looking at the latest, June, March, July 2007. So, and it looks like these are updated based on the comments, not necessarily the original post. So in the last week or so, so that's interesting. So not quite as active as that first group, but still some activity in the last few weeks. Let's take a look at Orchid Talk. Again, one of these old school style forums. Looking at this right here, 2019, 2020, 2021 back in May. 2021 back in May. So not super active. I'm not quite as excited about that one. Orchid Forum, let's take a look here. Again, June 6th, May 31st. So we've got a mix. June 9th, 2021. So this one's pretty active. Take a look at this. Last couple days, June 9th, June 8th, June 8th, June 3rd, June 7th. So this one's not that bad. Pretty decently active. I might want to hang on to this one. And we'll take a look at Slipper Talk right here. And look, holy smokes, look at this. 14,000 messages on that. Thursday, today, Friday. So again, we're getting quite a bit of activity in just the last few days alone. So this is telling me that in my second place, looking on Google, that there are a fair number of forums that exist, literally in just like a few seconds of research. Like I haven't spent hours doing this. I'm just taking a quick peek in. So what you want to do is when it comes to Google, you want to look for specifically forums. Now, for some of you, you're going to be in niches and markets that are more B2B, more business to business. And in your case, a place that you want to spend some time looking is on LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is a great place to look for B2B, business to business groups. And I want to show you how to look for evidence of groups on LinkedIn. If we go to LinkedIn.com and in the search bar at the top, you could type a subject. So I don't know that we're going to see a whole lot here for orchids because it's kind of more of a consumer hobby. But if we type something in like, for example, consulting, let's say that you are, and specifically we'll type in like business consulting. If you are looking to find maybe work with consultants, maybe your market is serving consultants. So you type in that search term, and what you want to do specifically is see at the top here where you've got all these little bubbles, go over to where it says groups, click on groups, and you want to look for groups of people. Again, we're looking for large groups of people that have thousands or tens of thousands of people that represent our potential target market. So let's take a look. Business consulting group. I've got 63,000 members in that group right here. Let's take a look at that level of activity. I'm looking at some of these right here. Miss Salon, business consulting. Maybe I'll type in business consultant. Sometimes you have to type in a different word. Business consultant. Let's see, 239,000 members. I think we just looked at this one right here. Small Business Independent Consultant Network. Let's take a look at that. Certified Business Consultants. That's kind of interesting to me. This one looks like it's a specialization. A few of these are in different languages. It looks like Business Management and Strategic Consultant Forum, only 378 people here. So let's take a look at the few that we identified as possible candidates. So you can see here about this group. I'm looking at what sort of activity that we have. I'm connected to 30 people in this group. Looks like there are 63,000 people. I'm going to have to join the group to find out the level of activity, which is a bit of a preview of things to come. I'm looking at this one right here. Is this the same group? No, this is a different group. 67,000 members in this group right here. and I could request to join this group right here as well. Sometimes you'll get a public group that you can see, access, and inside without having to join. But it looks like here we've got another 23,000 people in this group. So what I'm seeing is if I want to sell to business consultants, that there are groups of people that I can reach on LinkedIn that are in that target market, in that target audience that I'm looking to reach. So that's the third place where your market can be hiding online in plain sight. Next two places are two places that many people don't think to look for, and I'm going to share them for a few specific reasons. The next place that you want to look at is a website called Quora, Quora.com. So it's Quora, Quora.com. What you're specifically looking for are what are called topics. Now, if we go to Quora.com, again, it's spelled Quora. Quora.com is a place where people go to get answers to questions. Now, the reason why that's important and relevant is because, again, tomorrow we're going to be talking about how to identify the specific problems, challenges, struggles that exist in your market that people will pay money to solve. We want to go to places where people are actively posting their questions on certain topics. So here, if we type in our case, orchids, and we look to see, is there any evidence of communities and people posting? We can go here to this topic, orchids. We'll take a look and see what we've got. Orchids, we've got 14,500 people in this topic. And you can see here, we've got people that are posting questions about their orchids. My orchid needs help. Is it possible for an orchid plant to produce blooms? What's the best way to keep an orchid alive? So we've got, activity that's happening. Some of it's a little bit older activity, but that's okay. We're looking for evidence of this. And what's also interesting is that you can identify related spaces. So, orchids maybe is too specific. So maybe I need to go into a space like plant life, for example, or all about plants. And you can discover more spaces that are related to the place that you are looking to go into. So Quora.com is another great resource to use online. The fifth and final place to go, and this is specifically relevant for anybody here who is in a local geographic area, that you focus on a specific local market. Maybe it's your town, your state, an area of your country. There's a great website that you can use to find local groups of people that meet together in person by going to a website called Meetup.com. Meetup.com, if you're not familiar, is a place where you can find groups of people who are meeting up, oftentimes in person, sometimes digitally, but mostly in person around a specific topic. So, for example, let's say you, and this is relevant, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, but it's also relevant today for many places around the world that are starting to open up, where it becomes more beneficial to meet with people or get to know people or connect with people face to face. If you're selling, for example, in your local market and you've got a local insurance agency, a local real estate practice, a local restaurant, a local storefront, you're going to have a lot more success connecting with people in your community than you will connecting with people who are in some faraway place on the other side of the globe. So we can take a look and take one of our keywords here. We can type in orchids and see what we've got. So I type in the word orchids within 50 miles of Austin, Texas, which is where we're at right now. Not a whole lot going on. So let's expand our radius to 100 miles. Anything happening? Within 100 miles, still not a whole lot going on. So let's expand to any distance at all, and we'll see what sort of orchid events are around. But here are some orchid-related events. So walking to a bog, orchid, sundew, and pitcher plants. Native plant preserve walk, it's happening here in the Texas Wild Mushroom Group. Level 3 walk, Wildflower Meadow and Children's Beach Woodland, 4 spots remaining for that. Hills and Woods, Tea Leaf and Orchid Countryside walk. So what I'm seeing is that there's not a whole lot going on here in Austin, Texas as it relates to orchids. But let's say, for example, if we typed in a different geography. Maybe we typed in, for example, Miami, Florida. Right? We know in southern Florida that orchids are very popular, so let's type this in. Let's see if we've got anything that's coming up. So within any distance of Miami, Florida, anything happening? Let's see what we've got. Not a whole lot more happening. So what this tells me is that while orchids might be a great subject for connecting with people remotely, as we look at these groups that we found on Facebook, for example, it's telling me that it's probably not something that I'm going to be successful with if I wanted to specifically sell and focus on orchids here inside this community right here. Now, sure, you might be able to have some success, but why make it more difficult for yourself? You want to make sure that you've got evidence of people who have a common conflict all around the specific market that you're looking to get into. So, all right, before we get into our homework assignment here today, who'd like to go through a few examples? Who has a market that you'd like to put to the test, that you'd like to take a look at, to go through this process in real time while we're here together, take a look to see what groups might exist in your market? If you'd like to be a willing victim, a volunteer, all you need to do is this, as I move some of these orchids off to the side a little bit, all you need to do is this. Go ahead in the comment thread and post the word market in all capital letters, put it in square brackets so it's really easy for me to see. Type the word market in square brackets. Let me know what that market is in just 1 or 2 words. Try to keep it short, simple, to the point. And I'll pick a few random markets and we'll take a look at these one by one. So as you take a moment to do that, I'm just going to hit refresh on all of these pages so that we can start with a fresh blank slate on Facebook, on Google, in LinkedIn, on Quora.com and Meetup.com, as I clear this and change this to Austin, Texas, back to where we are right now, Austin, Texas, USA. And we'll take a look at some of the, oh, that's not going to behave, is it? Austin, Texas. Let's try that one more time. Austin, Texas. All right, let's refresh. There we go. Clear this out, and we will take a look and see what we got. All right, so great. Markets. Home brewing. Okay, it's the first one that I saw. I didn't catch your name, but the person who just posted home brewing, it's going fast and furious. So many comments are going through real quick. We'll take a look at the home brewing market first, and then we'll take a look at a few other examples. So hang tight. If you got another one, we'll take a look. All right, so home brewing market. Let's take a look. Let's go to our trusty old Facebook search. Let's type in the word home brewing. Take a look. Home brewing. All right, let's see what we got. I can go right down to groups. Let's see. Homebrew Network. Look at that. 57,000 members, 50 posts a day. Homebrewing 101, 10 posts a day. Homebrewing Hacks and Mods, not as active, 2 posts a day. 27,000 members, 20 posts a day, 10 posts a day, 8 posts a day, 4 posts a day in the UK. 3 posts a day for kombucha, which is kind of like a sub niche within the homebrewing market. Homebrewing Australia, 40 posts a day. So great. So we've got a ton of groups here in Facebook, that's for sure. That's an easy find. How about home brewing here in Google? We'll type in home brewing forum. Take a look. Homebrew Talk. Let's take a look at that forum right here. Homebrewtalk.com. Forum at Northern Brewer. Take a look at this one right here. Beersmith. Sounds interesting. This is a market I know nothing about, by the way, so we're just doing this in real time. AHA Forum, American Homebrewers Association, that's a great sign. Beer Advocates, take a look right here. Take a look at a few of them. Homebrew Talk, 17 messages. Looks like we got messages happening today, 9 minutes ago, today, yesterday, 18 minutes, 13 minutes today. I'd say that's pretty darn active. What do you guys think? This is very exciting, very promising. Let's take a look at some of these. Ooh, this is kind of an interesting interface. I don't know if I'm going to spend much time here. So you're going to find some duds and some dead ends down the road. You're going to, what I like to call, stub your toe, and you just continue on. It's all good. Let's take a look at this one right here. Looks like not quite as active as that other one. So June 6th, May 30th, March 27th. So not quite as active as that other one. American Home Brewers Association. Let's take a look at this. Let's see. Today. So we got today. Take a look at that. So that's pretty exciting. This is a pretty active group here. I'm going to hang on to this one. And then last but not least, we'll take a look at some of these other ones. So this is 14 minutes ago, today, yesterday, Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Thursday. So we've got stuff happening right here, right now in this week, which is very promising to me. So when I look at this, I'm saying, all right, home brewing market, like it's checking off the boxes to me. It's looking like we can reach this group of people, and it gives me a lot of hope and excitement for the work we're going to be doing tomorrow. Let's take a look at a couple other niche markets. So if you got a market that you'd like for me to take a look at, let's take a look. All right, so I see Diane's here, zero waste living. Let's take a look at zero waste living. So we'll do our same thing. Let's see what we might find. So let's go zero waste living. So let's just type in zero waste for a minute, and let's see what kind of groups exist. So zero waste. groups. We are part of several zero waste groups. We try to be as zero waste as we possibly can here in our household. It's one of the things that's really important to us that we believe in. We know that there's a great Austin community, the Austin Zero Waste Lifestyle. So that looks like an interesting group. 2 posts a day, not super active. 10 posts a day. By the way, as a benchmark, if you have a community that has 10 posts a day or more, that's a good sign. So if you're just 1 post a week, that's kind of like a little bit of a ghost town. You don't really want that. 10 posts a day or more, 100 posts a day, even better. That's like a great sign. But just kind of these benchmarks that you're looking for. All right. So what are some of the other words that we might be able to type in? So as I'm looking at this, I see other keywords that come up that will sometimes lead you to other ideas. So zero waste is one concept, but what about free cycle? So when I look at zero waste free cycle, and I think this is, I don't know what NI stands for in this case, you'll have to educate me, but that's 160 posts a day. Now, I'm familiar, these communities oftentimes are people who are posting something that they want to upcycle or free cycle, so there's a lot of activity happening. But let's type in the word free cycle just for the heck of it and see what we might get there. Free cycle. So this is the natural resource process, guys. So free cycle. Let's take a look at this. So free cycle. All right, let's type in groups. All right, so let's take a look at this. Free cycle. So this is 8 posts a day, 5, 5, 4, 3, 20 posts a day. This is Oxfordshire. So these free cycle groups are very localized. And I imagine that they're less about how to live a zero waste life and more so about how to free cycle things that you would otherwise be throwing away, that you'd be putting in the garbage can. So it's a different type of concept, may not quite be right, but I like to explore all avenues when I'm going through this process. Once again, we'll type in zero waste again, zero waste, and see where we started. Let's see what else could we type in. So zero waste, let's take a look at this. I want to go back to remember groups, so you're in the right place. Zero waste, zero judgment, zero waste, sustainable living. Oh, that's an interesting topic. Let's look up sustainable living, sustainable living. Let's see what kind of groups exist in the sustainable living space. Ooh, look at this. So sustainable living, 20 posts. Eco-friendly sustainable living, 2 posts. Small farm sustainable and homestead living, 151,000 people in this group, 10 posts a day. So 10 posts a week, so it's not very, this one's not very active, not as excited about this. 20 posts a day, small acreage sustainability and homestead living. So as I look at this, it starts giving you ideas, right? Like I start thinking, well, look at this. The homestead market is one that might be interesting. Now, you may be going too far afield from your original idea, and that's fine. You can say, "Hey, Ryan, go away. You're causing more problems for me than I need right now." But when I look at this, I'm looking for opportunities. Boom! Take a look at this. Texas homesteading, 60 posts a day, 10 posts a day, 10 posts a day, 110 posts a day. So see how this process sometimes can yield ideas that you didn't think about, and you say to yourself, well, I was thinking about maybe going in this direction, but then all of a sudden you start kind of letting the river take you where it needs to go. You're letting the current take you to your destination, because at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, what's more important, right? What's most important to you? Is it your why, the reason why you're doing what you're doing, or is it the vehicle that's going to get you there? What's more important, the destination, where you're headed, or the boat that you're paddling to get to that destination? Sometimes the vehicle itself can change. The destination, that's your non-negotiable, right? You're going to Tahiti or wherever your dream destination is, figuratively in your mind, that next future for yourself, the future that you've envisioned for yourself. That's the non-negotiable destination. But the path you take to get there, well, there are a million ways to get there. Like I tell people, there are a million ways to make $1 million. You just got to pick one. And that one idea that you have today might lead to a different idea. So allow yourself, give yourself permission to be flexible, to go with the current of the river, to go where the demand already exists. I'll do one more market, and then we're going to call it a day, get to our homework assignment, and then I'm going to set you loose because you've got some work to do tonight, guys, to set yourself up for success tomorrow. So let's take a look at one more market here. So if you got a market you'd like me to take a look at, go ahead and post inside the comment thread, type the word market, and share what your market is. I'm going to take a sip of water. Let's take a look at what we got here. Cool. All right. Dennis, I'm going to go with you. Dennis, we're going to go to Learn to Code Python for Kids. This is a market that's near and dear to my heart because my two boys are learning how to code. They're soon to be 7 and 10, 6 and 9 years old. So they're learning to code. They love coding. They love Python. They love basically like all things computer space coding. So it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, by the way, just personally, incidentally. But let's take a look at what the market says. Who cares what I say? Who cares what I think? Let's see what the market actually says. So let's take a look first and foremost with Google. So if we're going to do, let's see, coding forum, my hunch is that we're going to get a forum that's just too big. That's going to be for adults, for all things, right? So code forum, this is an example, Stack Overflow. Anybody who's developed any software, of course, knows Stack Overflow. Coding forums, so lots of coding. Let's take a look at coding, let's see, for kids. Let's see, coding for kids forum. Let's see what we got. All right. Teach kids. All right, so red flag deals, freecodecamp.org, coding programs for kids. Let's take a look at that. Well-trained mind. So these are probably kids. It's 2014. That's quite old. Let's see. Early retirement extreme, getting kids into IT programming, top 21 coding websites for kids. So sometimes you got to look at, you got to go a couple levels deep. So this site right here is intriguing to me, right? So top 26 free and paid coding websites for kids. So we got all these different websites, and what I'm looking for are communities, because ultimately what I want to identify are the conversations that are taking place online. I want to see what are the problems that people are having right now related to the subject, and is there an opportunity to solve an unsolved problem, to meet an unmet need. So, looking at a couple of these, so we can look at Codekid, Scratch, Codecademy. Let's take a look at a couple of these. Let's see, what is it? Codekid. Did I spell that right? Codekid. Let's take a look. Forum. All right. Codekid forum. Let's see. Excellent. Forum community for all professionals. Codecademy. Let's take a look at that. Beginner's Guide to Teaching Coding. I want to see if there's a forum on the site. That's what I'm looking for here. Try it for free, buy it a gift. Possibly have a community for customers, for buyers. Teach your kid to code. So this is something that you're going to have to do a little bit more digging on to see if this is an option. Sometimes it's not just a straight shot right away where you discover it immediately. Let's look at Codecademy forum. Let's take a look at that. Codecademy forums. Okay, here we go. So now we're getting somewhere. This is kind of what I'm looking for. All right, Codecademy forums. So I'm looking here. Looks like 2020, not a whole lot of activity happening right here, right? So let's see. Let's do code Python kids. All right, coding Pythons for kids. These are a bunch of ads. Wizard HQ, Python, Amazon.com, Code Wizard HQ. Let's take a look at this. Python. So sometimes it goes a rabbit hole, right? Where you're starting to look around and dig around. So this is a, and when the other thing too, by the way, when you're looking for stuff for kids, you got to remember that a lot of these sites are going to be, built in such a way that they're protecting children, right? So, as adults, we've got free reign on the internet, but, most parents have some semblance of wanting to, keep their kids safe online because, after all, it's a scary place out there. So, you might not find forums and conversations that are specifically for children. You may need to think one step beyond that and look for the forums where actual adults are having conversations with other adults about teaching their children how to code, or the programs that they're thinking about enrolling their kids in, and the challenges that they've had. So you might want to look at, for example, another a great thing that you can do is look up some of these program names. So for example, if we look at Scratch, which is what our kids do, Scratch, Python, let's see, you could type in review. Sometimes there's a word that you can type and see if there are any conversations that are taking place. Here we go. Next, should my child learn to code with Scratch or Python? So this is looks like it could be a blog post. By the way, this is another place where you can sometimes find conversation, is in the comments of a blog. Let's see, are there any comments? Doesn't look like there are any comments on this particular blog post. This is not what we're looking for. We're not looking for one person's opinion. We're looking for the actual conversation taking place. So let's take a look here quick on Facebook to see coding Python. All right, let's see what we got. Let's see if there are any groups. Python Coding, Self-Instruction Hub, 174,000 members, 10 posts a week, not super active. Python Programming, 150 posts a day. Python Programming for Beginners. So what you may need to do, Dennis, when you're doing this research, here we go, Python Coding for Kids, Beginners. So we got our first group. That's definitely giving us an indication that there's some market here. 3,000 members, not huge, 4 posts a day, not super active, but it gives me hope. And it's a starting place that I want to begin. Coding for Beginners, we might find that some of these more generalized Python coding communities have sub-conversations and threads specifically focused on children. Cool. All right. So you've gotten a sense for the process. We've gone through a couple different examples. Now, your assignment here today is to find and identify at least 3 groups online. 3 communities of people that represent your ideal customer or where your ideal customer might be hanging out, because we're going to be using these communities tomorrow to do the second layer of research where we go inside those communities to figure out what are the problems, what are the challenges, what are the struggles, and what does the hyper-responsive segment of your market most need help with right here, right now, today. Because that is going to be the key. That is where the rubber meets the road, and we're going to identify what is the thing, the opportunity that exists in your market that you can solve and build a quiz funnel around to deliver a product or service. So, your assignment tonight, identify 3 groups, 3 communities, and join those groups. So, on Facebook, you just go, and if you find a group that represents your ideal group, you're just going to click on this button on the right-hand side that says Join this group. So you're going to click that group, join that group. You may want to join more than 3 so that you have at least 3 that you can go into inside, because we all know that it sometimes takes group admins a little bit of time to accept your invitation. Same thing on LinkedIn. If you go to a group, you type in, say, business consultant, you go to a group inside of LinkedIn, like this one right here, request to join. If you're not yet a member of Quora, sign up. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Sign up for Quora so that you can identify the different topics that might exist. Same thing with meetup.com. If you're not yet a member, join meetup.com. It is free. And of course, on Google, do that form search that we've spent some time going through to identify different forums that you might be a part of and join the forums that are available. Your goal is to find at least 3. You want to get that done today because tomorrow's work is going to be diving into these groups, and that's where we get to look at the actual conversations that are taking place, and this is where things start to get really fun. So, up until this point, we've answered the question of what's your why. We've answered the question of who is your who. We've answered the question of your where. Where are you finding people? And tomorrow, we're going to shift our attention to answering the question of what. As in, what do people want to buy? What is the product or service or solution, opportunity that exists in your market? Where's the unmet need? What is the slam dunk opportunity that if you just put it in front of people, you know people are going to buy it because they're expressing a desire for this solution? This is how you set yourself up for success. You don't build it and hope they come. You find the unmet need in your market and you give it to people. And that's what we're going to cover tomorrow in this process. All right, one last thing before we wrap things up. Again, just to recap everything that we've covered up until this point. Homework assignment tonight. Make sure that you post the links to your top 3 groups. You can use the hashtag MyWhere. So remember, we've been using these hashtags. And if you want to catch up, you can use the hashtag MyWhy to share what your why is here in the group. Hashtag MyType to share with us what your type is. Hashtag MyWho to let us know what your who is. And hashtag MyWhere, that is today's homework assignment that you got to get done before we kick things off, same time, same channel, same place tomorrow. And share with us your 3 groups. So you want to identify 3 specific groups and let us know what they are. You can just say it's on Facebook, the Orchid Care Society. It's the Slipper Forum on Google.com. It's the International Consultant Association on LinkedIn. So let us know what those groups are. Join those groups because we're going to be diving into those groups tomorrow. Now, one last thing before we wrap, and that's this. You know, I always love to wrap our days with our single biggest takeaways from the day. So I'm going to invite you right here, right now, inside the comment thread to let me know what's been your biggest takeaway of the day. Type the word takeaway in square brackets. Let me know what your biggest takeaway has been here today in our session on your where, which is where to find your market. So go ahead inside the comment thread. Let me know what your biggest takeaway has been from our session here today. I'll take a moment to read a few takeaways that y'all have shared. And this is awesome. All right. So Robert says takeaway. Here we go. Excuse me, taking a sip of water here. Olivier says, another awesome night. Grateful for all of you. Grateful for you, my friend. Neil says, awesome. Sachin says, my biggest takeaway is to search my market. If you got a takeaway, you can just type the word takeaway. Olivier says, another awesome night. Let's see, what do we got here? Takeaway, research, says Larry. Bob says, takeaway, start with the problem, then create the solution. Angie says, never build it, and then they come. Never hope that they're going to come. John says, takeaway, whole idea of looking for conversations about this. Who would have thought? Let's see. Renee says, knowing where to look. Liz says, takeaway, never thought of where to find people. The greatest brain boom for me. James says, takeaway, I need to do more research. Takeaway is how easy the research can be. Kathy says, don't build it until you know that they're asking for it, right? That's the easiest thing to do. The most important thing in business to have is not your reputation, it's not money, it's more important than anything else is to have a starving crowd. I will outsell any restaurant in the world if I have a line of people who are starving for food and of course have a little bit of money in their pocket. Because that's all you need. You need a starving crowd of people, and that's what we're going to be looking for is where is a starving crowd in your market? What are they hungry for? What are they thirsting for? What are they asking for? That's what we're going to figure out tomorrow. Takeaway, says Cooper, knowing how to drill down where my audience is. Doris says, takeaway, the different places to look. Cindy says, to look in many places. Susan says, thank you so much. Candace says, to focus steps on how to find groups within my market. Laura says, research topic from 100. Ryan says, knowing what to look for. Angie says, that starving crowd. Akil says, the online search is great. Sergio says, I learned to search for congregations. Robert says, check out Core. Absolutely. Gavin says, understanding that your problem can be fixed. I love it. Takeaway, says Greer, that you can be attracted to a market that you cannot support and you want to shift your attention in that case. This is great. Let's see. Going. Muhammad, market, best search, practice, immerse, do it, and take action. Absolutely. All right, guys. I know we went a little bit longer on today's sessions, but I wanted to give you a few examples of this process in action so that you are equipped to take action, get great results, and set yourself up for success for tomorrow's session where we pick up where we left off. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day, great rest of your evening. Take care, talk soon, and I'll see you same time, same place tomorrow right here inside the group. Take care.